listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching or listening to our show, Talking Heads. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm thrilled to bring you this program. This program is all about experts from around the world who come and present short, bite-sized lessons in 15-minute intervals so that we can learn more both professionally and personally. Joining me today is Caroline Heward. Welcome, Caroline.
Hello, good to be here.
It's nice to see you again. And for folks who are just tuning in for the first time for one of your presentations, would you share with us where you're joining us from and a little bit about your background?
Of course. I'm from London, England, UK, and my background is Chakra Psychology. I've been doing chakra work for 21 years. I've been working with clients for about 20 years, and essentially it's how the mind and body connects and what happens to the person physically, emotionally, mentally, behaviourally when there's an imbalance. And the imbalance is the symptom, and the symptom displays in those different areas in their life and causes them problems. And I work to identify the root cause, which when you're in awareness obliterates the problem and you feel good and the problem symptom disappears.
Thank you, Caroline. That's so important with everything that's going on in the world. One of our earlier shows today, someone commented that the suicide rate among business owners has increased. So this is what someone else shared. I don't have any data to reference whether that's valid or not. But I'm wondering, how can understanding the chakras and the significance of each of them play a role in helping us understand what's going on with us emotionally, physically, spiritually?
What happens is we handle stuff physically, logically, practically. And when we're handling things like that, like grief, like a breakdown in a relationship or sickness or things that have happened, in our everyday life. These are everyday things, a work situation, financials. What we do is we handle everything logically and practically. And in order to do that, the body literally shuts down the physical, emotional center. And when it shuts down the emotions, then we think, talk, and analyze through everything, so we don't feel. But whatever we suppress literally gets expressed in our physical world and in our physical body. So that moves us into depression, anxiety, and physical emotional ache and pain. And when you're in awareness of what those physical, emotional, mental symptoms are, that's the first step to resolution, solution, and moving into a place of inner peace and literally resolving the issue that you're not handling.
Thank you for that excellent explanation. I appreciate it. I just am wanting to let people know who are just tuning in, I see some new people joining us, that this show is a presentation platform program. This is not about interviews. So Caroline is one of our experts, and she'll be presenting a lesson. And we love to hear from our audience. We have a comment from Hyatt. Hyatt always crack me up. We need to put Caroline with Red. I'm guessing they can mesh well together. Yes, I think that is a very good comment. So Hyatt is also one of our experts. So Caroline, you've presented already some of the chakras. Which are the ones you presented so far?
So far, I've done an introduction. So I've actually done a very brief overview of the 7 chakras. That was the first one. And then I've done the root chakra. And I've done the second chakra, which is the Sacral Chakra. That's the sexual chakra. And I'm just about to move into the solar plexus.
Okay, fantastic. So audience, just to let you know, Caroline will be doing her presentation. Then we will be taking a commercial break. And Caroline has surprised me with a second presentation for today. Woo, way to go, Caroline. So we will come back and have a discussion about the first one. Then Caroline will present the second one. We'll take another break and then come back and discuss. So Caroline, are you ready to begin?
I sure am.
Okay, fantastic. All right, I'm going to spotlight you. Would you like the timer or are you good without?
I'm good with that because I don't generally see it. So
Okay.
I've got a clock here.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to share your presentation and I'm going to go backstage. Have a great one.
Thank you. So, transformational chakra healing journey, the third chakra, the solar plexus. The solar plexus chakra is also known as Manipura, which it's the seat of where our self-esteem resides. It's the seat of our personal power and our personal responsibility. And it's also the place of our independence. Now, when things aren't working in the solar plexus, it moves us into a place of victim. And that place causes us challenges when we move there because we're not then in our personal power. We're not then independent and we're not then responsible and we lack self-esteem. So let's look a little closely at the sacral chakra. Its Sanskrit name is Manipura, and Manipura is the seat of gems, the city of jewels. It's our power chakra. It's our power center, our confidence, our self-esteem, our control resides in the sacral chakra. Or for some people, lack of control. And for some people, an over control. And what over control can look like is bullying. It is the center of our ego, our self-identity. It's the center of our will. And it's also known as the abdominal brain. Now let me look a little bit further into the abdominal brain. When we say things like, I feel that, or I feel sick to the pit of my stomach, we're looking at the abdominal brain. And when we're saying things and we don't feel comfortable about it, we will say things like, I feel nervous. Nervousness resides in the abdominal brain. Excitement, butterflies, resides in the abdominal brain. And this is where we feel excited to do something or not in our power to do something, nervous. It's the seat of our will and our ego self-identity. So if we're not feeling safe in the abdominal brain, it will appear, it will show up in our lives. So the solar plexus chakra is related to the pancreas gland. And the saboteur of the pancreas gland is anger. So you may have heard people say, don't vent your spleen on me. So this is the place where anger resides. And it's a bit like when you have anger and you hold a hot coal of anger, it doesn't hurt the other person that you're angry about, it hurts you. The element associated with the solar plexus is fire. And it's also related to the sun energy. Because it's fire, it gives us our sight. So the sensory is sight. The color is yellow. And it's located above the belly button, about 4 finger widths above the belly button, which is in the upper abdomen. And the seed mantra is Ram, Ram. The solar plexus chakra, yellow, it represents youth. it represents new beginnings, birth and a rebirth. It gives us our energy and our movements. It's a doing chakra. It gives us our knowledge and the intellect, and it's responsible for intellectual pursuits. So when we get very analytical and we get very focused in the mind, this is where we move in the solar plexus. So it's our intellectual pursuits. So let's look at some of the challenges of the sacral chakra. Burnout. So if you're in the sacral chakra, if you're in the solar plexus chakra, you're in burnout. If you're going through the solar plexus full on, you're in a complete doing, and you're in the mind, and you're in a lot of activity. And that will lead, if it's unbalanced, to burnout. It can lead to digestive disorders, such as irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, diverticulitis. And these are undealt with emotional problems, undealt with things that we haven't managed because we've suppressed those experiences so that we can get the work done. But when we suppress, it expresses in our body in digestive issues. The challenges also reside in trust issues. We will find it very, very difficult to trust other people. We will find it challenging, and we will question. And that trust is really not with others. The first trust is with ourselves. And then if we don't trust ourselves, that relates back to other people. So if there's a distrust in our own power and our own self-empowerment, that creates a distrust for others in our world. This is the center for control issues and addictions. And when we don't feel in control, we will hinge on the addictions. And that can be coffee. It can be fizzy drinks like Coca-Cola, Pepsi. It can be smoking, because if we're not feeling in control, we will reach out for something that we feel in control of. This is also where we may turn to things like alcohol. And certainly in the current situation in the last 18 months, there has been many reports about the avalanche of alcohol sales, people drinking overly and excessively to move through the challenges that they're experiencing. It also moves into the place of recreational substances. And when we're not feeling in control, we will reach out. I happen to know that there are many people, certainly in environments where I'm surprised that it seems to be very commonplace to be using recreational substances. And all these things are an escape route. We're escaping our reality because we're not feeling comfortable with what's going on. So we escape, and we escape out of the situation, reality, into a place where we're feeling a bit more comfortable. The only problem when we move into these types of addictions is that there is no space and there is no personal power or empowerment, because we lose the experience of living in reality. So let's look at some of the symptoms of the imbalance. Eating disorders, bulimia, so comfort eating, not eating. And when we're comfort eating, we're reaching out for food because we feel we're going to get something from it. It gives us a comfort. And some people in the same place won't eat. They will say, I've got no appetite now, and they will push the plate away or not eat. So this is where the imbalance moves into weight issues, almost like a seesaw of weight issues, people going on to extraordinary diets that are really not good for the body when we go into those kinds of, I've heard of cabbage diets and all sorts of fad type diets, which I am sure, cause distress on the body, because that's not how the body needs feeding. It's like a car. You need to put the gas into the car. It can relate to constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, known as IBS for short. It can relate to gas issues and nausea, so feeling sick to the pit of your stomach. Irritable bowel syndrome is commonly misunderstood. Most people think that they'll either have one or the other, constipation or running to the toilet, but actually it is a constipation because the diarrhea is watery, and so it's because we are holding on to the waste. We are holding on, and that is not good. And it causes all sorts of problems. You can really feel not well. Ulcers. Now, ulcers and arthritis, they are a result of acid. And because this is the center for anger, this will create an acid buildup in the body. And ulcers is related to an acid buildup. So arthritis is essentially you're holding the hot coal in your hand, and you're not hurting the other person with your anger. You're crippling yourself. And depending where the arthritis appears is relatable to the issue that you've not handled. It's hands, feet. That'll be a root chakra issue. If it's arthritis in the shoulders, that'll be a heart chakra issue. So arthritis will appear wherever the anger is not addressed. Diabetes, nerve pain. So let's look at some foods for the solar plexus. So let's look at some yellow foods: pineapple, banana, lemon, mango, turmeric, yellow peppers, squash, and corn. If you introduce these yellow foods into your diet, you will start to balance out the solar plexus. And finally, I want to look at some affirmations, because when we say things to ourselves, and we have to say it and mean it and feel it, when we say things to ourselves, we can actually feel them, because the mind does not know what's real or imagined. And because it does not know what's real or imagined, when you say it and feel it, it can change the way you experience. I honor the power within me. I honor myself. I give permission to be my authentic self. There are so many times when we're not being our true selves, and we're being what we feel or think we should be to show up for somebody else to accept us. So it's important to be your authentic self. And it might be quite challenging to speak and say what's really right for you. And when you're not being your true authentic self, it can cause you challenges and a discomfort in your life. The fire burns within me, and it burns through all my blocks and fears. All my blocks and fears. Because this is your doing chakra. This is your movement to be your real, true identity. And when you're being your true self, magic happens. Going on to the next one, I am manifesting easily and gracefully, because when you're your authentic self, you will become in flow. And when you're in flow, everything is easy to create and manifest. I release judgment of others and myself. This is a big one. So many people judge themselves. I'm not good enough. This is not right for me. I don't think that I can do this. The tech is too difficult. We will constantly judge that we're not good enough. And we're our own worst enemy. We are worse than all of our enemies put together. And if we moved out of the place of releasing that self-judgment, We will release the judgment of others, and everything will become authentic, and you become your true self. If you want to know more about me, I'm looking at the mind and body connection. I'm the Harley Street stress expert. My details, no more stress at live.co.uk, and my phone number, +44 7523 120 189.
Well done, Caroline. Lots of beautiful gems of information in there. We have a comment from our lovely Mr. Philip Chan. Hi, Philip. Great information. Caroline Heward, yes. So, I'm going to have to drill down on this a little bit because I have ulcerative colitis. Yeah. So that's ulcers and colitis. So my question would be for you, and this is... I'm just going to give it from the perspective of someone who's on the board of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. I also run a support group. So if I were to believe what you just shared, then I'd have to say that it's not a medical condition I have. It's more about me carrying, I'm just trying to understand, carrying anger around since 1991, and I haven't dealt with it, and it's manifested in these ways. Is that accurate?
Well, I didn't know what your history was, but you've just told me that something has happened to you in 1991 that you were angry about. And it is the undealt with anger of the situation, of the issue. So you've handled everything practically, logically, physically, but it's the emotion that is being pushed down. And because the emotion has been pushed down, it represents, it shows up, whatever you suppress in terms of your emotions, express in your body physically. And yes, it starts off with, and when I found out I had irritable bowel syndrome and I was diagnosed at 27, I was really shocked. And then when I started to learn about it, I realized, OMG, there are things I have been angry about that I've not handled. And so the anger can manifest, and literally it's eating you away. It's causing so much acid in the system that it's literally eating your body away and turning on itself. The other pain that you can get, which I have had, is acid in the upper abdomen, where I was almost not able to walk because I was in so much pain. And this was in April of last year on my birthday. And there were some reasons for that, and which I didn't handle. I handled them logically, practically, physically, but there was the emotions I didn't handle. Does that resonate with you? And does that make some sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense. And there was something that happened in 1991. I actually got engaged. I was obsessed with getting married because I was going to be 30. And so I got engaged. I knew it was the wrong thing to do. And shortly thereafter, I got sick. And what's interesting, having the disease all of these years, it would go in remission and then it would come back. I think it was 2018, I got facial eczema where it's horrifying. And then scalp psoriasis. And so I actually worked with a coach, one of the members on our team, Mariska, and what I found out was that even though I had an amazing career and I traveled the world and I was really well paid, my body was literally screaming out at me that I sold all these big events and I'd have to go to the events, and half the time I'm running to the restroom and missing the event, or I'd be at client dinners and I had to go to, in an ambulance to the hospital. So then I realized I wasn't living my true authentic self because my body was really saying to me, this isn't working for us. So lo and behold, that's where I am today. And I'm actually in remission. Now I have to say this, when I started that 75 hard challenge, my colitis came back and it was much worse. And that's when I realized it's not working for me. So yes, I agree with what you're saying.
It works. I don't have any doubt at all. I've been doing this work for so long. It's hard for the person to hear it. it's hard for them to, because they're treating, generally, most people will look at the physicality of the symptom and be treating that physical symptom with pharmaceutical products, looking at the physical symptoms. So when you go to the doctor says, what's the problem? And you give them the symptoms, and then he's writing a script out for the symptoms, but never really asking you what is going on in your life, because that's not what they're there for. They're only addressing symptoms. And so what can happen is you'll be taking something for a symptom, but never looking at why. And when you look at why this has happened, and you go back, because 1991 is a long time, that's a very long time ago, to be carrying that anger, that's extraordinary. But this is what we do. We live with things because, especially coming from corporate, we just have to get on with it. We just have to keep going. And because things happen, we brush down our emotions because we don't have room for them. We don't have the space to handle them. So we have to handle the logical, physical, practical things because we just got to get on. And then the suppression of the emotion creates all sorts of challenges within our body, physically, emotionally, mentally.
I agree with you. And something else that you said that really resonated with me was when you were going through the affirmations. And just to be totally candid, like last weekend, I just hated myself, and I'm my worst critic because I have such high expectations for myself for everything. So I literally was just all weekend, I hate you, I can't stand you, I hate you, and saying to myself, you can't be like that. But it just becomes like a cycle because I have so many things that I want to happen at a certain time. And I realize it's very self-destructive. So something else I want to share as a support group facilitator, I've been doing this work for about 3 years. I see it all the time, and I actually saw it with myself, is you have one thing that's wrong with you, which we, as you were saying, what is the root cause of it? Right? These are symptoms that show up. And then you go to a doctor and they put you on some pharmaceutical, which then has side effects, which then you have to deal with that. And now you're angry because the first thing didn't work. And now you have all this other stuff to deal with. And I hear it all the time. Somebody started out with one autoimmune and then another and another and another. Then they're in a wheelchair. I mean, and you have to say to yourself, what is the main cause from the first thing, and have you dealt with it? And just something else to say about that, I feel like in the world we live in today, it's I'm very much about forgiving people. I always, God bless that person, whatever they did to me, I forgive them. But the feelings that I actually had about my being a part of the situation or being in a relationship with someone, you just shove them down because we have to keep going. And we don't have time to sit and go, oh, well, why did I meet this person, or how did it, whatever it might be. And so that manifests, I think, is what happens.
Exactly right. And you're talking about some things that I'm going to be talking about in the Heart Chakra. So forgiveness is one of the Heart Chakra issues. So we're going to go into that a little later.
All right, fantastic. We are actually going to take a break, and we are going to hear from some of our sponsors. So thank you for staying with us. We have some new people who just joined. Carolyn's doing a fantastic job reviewing the chakras. And also another takeaway is yellow foods. I think that's really important. Turmeric especially. I love turmeric. I have it every day. Corn, I don't know. I want to talk about that one when we come back, because corn and digestive issues sometimes go together, right?
Yes, well, it will literally flush you out.
Explosion! All right, so we're going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. We're going to start with Margie Cidrone, Artisan Jeweler, and we'll hear from a couple of other sponsors, and then we'll be right back with Caroline and another lesson. Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cidrone, Artisan Jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cidrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
Hi everyone, I'm Mindy Thomas, founder of Thomas Career Consulting. If you are dealing with the stress of having been terminated or being laid off, considering a career change, or you simply cannot land a job with your current resume, you came to the right place. My professional expertise centers on being trained in two distinct areas: career counseling and career marketing. I am also the host of Career Chat, a weekly talk show which appears on RVN TV. My end game is helping you to overcome the self-doubt, the fear, and the other barriers you are facing right now in a very tricky, perplexing, and complicated job market. .5 seconds. That's how much time it takes a recruiter to scan your resume. On top of that, electronic applicant tracking systems may reject you even if you have the skills, education, and experience. I teach you how to win when you absolutely have to. My resume writing practice is built on a personalized, collaborative, and strategic approach that showcases your accomplishments in a way to get you noticed. At the center of my strategy is identifying your strengths and targeted keywords to make you stand out from the competition. As a professional resume writer, I know what it takes to impress even the most discriminating hiring manager. Changing careers, launching a new one, overwhelmed or stuck in a dead-end job? I have more than 2 decades of experience as a Georgetown-trained leadership coach, resume writer, career counselor, and recruiter. So whether you're a student, a top executive, or simply struggling to find your own career identity and you're feeling lost, you can count on me to lead you through the journey of self-discovery. I will formulate a step-by-step plan that begins with the assessment of your skills, your interests, your values, and your personality, and then explore the opportunities that are best suited to align with you. In essence, what makes sense for you? With 25 years of business experience, I have been privileged to work with a diverse group of adults, from young high school students to the millennials, the Generation X, Y, and Z, and boomers. Let me put that to work for you.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back. There's some kind of technical issue with StreamYard, and I apologize for the black screen. I don't know what happened, and StreamYard will not put my virtual image, so you're going to get me and the green screen, and we just keep rolling on. Welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching the Talking Head Show, and our expert today is Caroline Heward, and she just presented an incredible lesson. She's going through the 7 chakras, and I learned so much about it because a lot of it actually is very applicable to me. So I thank you for that. And she's got another lesson for us. So do share, what will you be presenting this time, Caroline?
I'm going to present the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra. That's the fourth out of 7 physical chakras. And if you enjoyed the last one, you're going to enjoy this one even more.
Woo! All right. I'm going to share your slides and I'm going to head backstage. Have a great lesson, Caroline.
Okay, transformation chakra healing journey, the fourth chakra, the heart. So the heart chakra is also known in Sanskrit as Anahata. It's the fourth chakra up from the base of the body. It's associated with love, acceptance, and compassion. Let's look a little deeper about the heart chakra. It's the middle of the 7 chakras, and it unites the physical and the spiritual chakras, serving as a bridge between the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spirit. It is the center for unconditional love, self-love. And I am aware that most of us have a challenge in this area about loving self. We're so highly critical about ourselves, and that plays out in our everyday. We are our own worst critic. It is the center for empathy, forgiveness, acceptance of oneself. And when we accept ourselves, we accept others so much more easily. It is the center of transformation. Transformation, all sorts of things can happen in this center when we're coming from a place of acceptance, self-love, and awareness. So the heart chakra is associated with the thymus gland, which is around the heart center. The saboteur of the heart chakra is grief. And the element associated with the heart is air. And it means unstruck. The color is green. And it's based where the sternum meets the breastbone. It's associated with our heart and our lungs. And the seed mantra is yam, yam. So the heart chakra is green in color, and it represents universal love. That universal love gives us inner peace. And most of us don't have inner peace because we're in our own internal battle. It will almost feel like we get up in the morning and we put on our suit of armor and we work in battle. We fight for everything that we get through by the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we're feeling exhausted. And that's why the phrase, another day, another battle, gets talked about. It's the center for self-knowledge. It's the center of empathy. And it's the place where we are emotionally open. Now let me say that again. We're emotionally open, because most of us aren't emotionally open because we close our heart chakra because of things that we've not handled. And when there is somebody, a loss in our lives, such as somebody physically dying or somebody that has left our relationship, our friendship, so breakdown of marriage, friendship, relationships, whether they be a friendship or intimate or otherwise, even a business relationship can create a suppression where the heart literally shuts down. And when the heart shuts down, we go into battle. And it's challenging. And it stops our emotional openness. It is the center for gratitude and generosity. And when we are grateful for something, we bring more of what we're grateful for. But when we're not grateful, and our human beingness tends to focus on what we're not happy about. And when we're not happy about something, that's where our focus resides. And so then we create more of what we're not happy about. So look at what you feel grateful for. And when you're grateful and you express that gratitude, you bring more of that into your life, and you bring more generosity into your life. So the challenges of the heart chakra. We become narcissistic when we are not in our heart chakra, when the heart chakra is shut down, because we are in a battle, and that battle starts with us. So we're in that internal battle, and that battle translates into our everyday life with everyone else. So it will feel like another day, another battle, and it will cause, I call it a crustiness. We start getting very harsh, cold-hearted almost. You know, people actually talk about, oh, you're cold-hearted. But when you're cold-hearted, it's because you're moving into the thinking, controlling, analytical side of the experiences of the mind, and you're not feeling the emotional space, and you go narcissistic. And depending on the level of the shutdown of the heart chakra will depend how much of a challenge that life becomes. And you will see the ones that are narcissistic because they'll be complaining about everything. They're the victim in everything. It perpetuates a loneliness, because what we do when we are shut down in the heart chakra is we will push people away because we're okay. We don't need them. And because we don't need them and we feel okay, we then move into a place of loneliness. So of course, in that loneliness, we will move into intimacy issues, because there's no self-love. And when there's no self-love, how can someone else love you? And so we become cold in our intimacy. And when you're cold and restricted and lonely, you will attract somebody else that's the same as you. It will affect the way that we portray. And one of the players come out as playing the rescuer. You might find that somebody is always rescuing people, because it's easier to rescue someone else than to look at yourself and what you need. And when you focus on the external, everything outside of you, then you don't have to look at what's going on for you. So the symptoms of an imbalance: respiratory problems, asthma, hay fever. Now, a lot of people suffer with asthma, and they really struggle with their breath. And this is because when you shut down the heart chakra because of loss, you restrict the air, because the element is air of the heart chakra. So when you restrict the air, of course, you're going to have respiratory problems such as asthma and hay fever. The chest goes really tight, and it will create heart problems, cardiovascular problems, and hypertension. Hypertension is actually an over thinking and analyzing, where you're really tense, and that affects the blood and that affects the heart. And when you have hypertension, that is a potential stroke, heart attack. An imbalance can create a withdrawn or an antisocial experience for the person. It will cause a social anxiety and an overcriticalness of others. And what I mean by that is we'll always be complaining about something or someone else. They didn't do this right. They didn't do that right. So look at where you're complaining, because this will show up as what's not being handled. And many people that have lost a close person, such as a sibling, a partner, a friendship. It doesn't have to be that they physically die, although that's the biggest one that we think about. It can be a breakup of a relationship, a breakdown of a friendship, a breakdown of a partnership. Essentially, it's loss. It can be loss of a home. It can be loss of a culture. It can be loss of a friendship. It can be loss of a lifestyle. So people that have come from different countries, for instance, the refugee situation that we are currently in, it can be loss of your family in the way that you were living. And that will create a suspicion, because when you have lost something close to you, it will create suspicions about others. It will then create a demanding of others, because then we get into this narcissistical control place where we become demanding to become more centered, and that will create some personal boundaries for you and for everyone else around you. So some foods for the heart chakra, as it's green: kale, spinach, cabbage, squash, broccoli, cauliflower, green peppers, dandelion, and hawthorn berry tea. So have some green on your plate. This is where we talk about your green vegetables. Have green, because green is for the heart chakra. So let's look at some affirmations. I love myself unconditionally. It sounds easy to say, but it's not so easy to do, because we are our own worst critic. We will always say, I'm not good enough at this, I'm not good enough at that. And it doesn't matter. And sometimes the very big super succeeders, the super professional people that do really well in their business and their occupation have this challenge, especially in corporate, because everything is about what you do. Everything is about your results. And so we become less involved with ourselves and more about the approval process of what others think about us. And when we're in that approval process, we don't love ourselves and we don't come from the heart. I'm kind to myself and others. One of the challenges with this affirmation is most times, as Dr. Jacalyn mentioned previously in between the last presentation and this one, is that we tend to be our own worst critic, and we're tending to look at all our faults, all the things that we don't like, all the things that we don't feel that are good enough. And so when you're kind to yourself, it follows that you become kind to others. So what you are to yourself then represents in your external world. And so when you're critical, you will find that others will be critical of you. And so when you are kind to yourself, you naturally become kind to others and give, because when you're kind to yourself, it's easy. What I'm going to finish off and say by that is behavior, your own internal behavior creates a behavior that you are to others, will show up, will mirror back as a behavior to you. I forgive all that came before me and that are yet to come. This is a big one, because this chakra is all about forgiveness. It's not about forgiving the other person that they did you wrong. It's more about your own forgiveness in what happened. And when you take responsibility for forgiving yourself for whatever happened, with the person, with how you responded, with how you didn't respond, what you said, what you didn't say. If you forgive all of that before you, and if you forgive everything that will become and present that's coming towards you, all there is love. all there is peace. And all there is inner peace and compassion. I have the strength to follow my heart. There is a conversation about head and heart. Shall I follow my heart, which I'd really like to do, but actually my head tells me to do something else. So I think I'll do what my head tells me to do. And so many people say this. It is in our existence that we say this often. I'm going to follow my head because I make a good decision. But when I follow my heart, usually we go step into an emotional place, and that causes the person with an imbalance a problem. I'm kind to myself and others. I'm saying this again because it's so big. I am kind to myself and others because we are our own worst inner critic. And when you say these things, it's not about saying it, it's about feeling the kindness to yourself. My focus is on mind and body connection, how the mind and body connects and what happens to the person physically, emotionally, mentally when there's an imbalance. I'm Caroline Heward, the Harley Street stress expert. You can reach me, email nomorestress@live.co.uk, mobile +44 7523 120 189.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. I'm back with the green screen again. It's still not fixed. So I really could relate to a lot of what you were talking about there. And as we talked right before you went to this presentation, it's at least for me, it is hard not to beat myself up on a regular basis. Although I am kind to myself, but I always hear my father, you could be doing better, or you should be doing better, or what about this, or what about that? And I think we have those things in our mind. And I think something else that really resonated is that I am the kind of person, I don't share when I feel I've been hurt or betrayed. I forgive the person, but I don't actually ever get to say my piece because I just decide, why should I bother going through all of that? They're probably not going to be receptive. They're going to get defensive. And then that gets stuffed down as well.
I have some perspective on that for you. The forgiveness and the pushing down of the feeling is not for the other person, it's for you. So when you grieve, when you really grieve that person and let them go from your heart, because relationships, we're always relating to everything and everyone. Relationships are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. They did nothing wrong. There is a contract that's made, and essentially their reason or the season or the lifetime is over. I certainly have struggled with that myself, and I had an extraordinary, deep and meaningful corporate friendship. But I stopped being corporate. And so I was fighting to keep that friendship. And no matter how much I fought, it was not my friend that left me, I left her. And this is something we don't realize because I was not corporate anymore. And so how could I still expect that friendship? And there are other friendships that come in for a reason. They're there, they've served their purpose. And then what we do is we make them wrong. We say, you did this and you did that. And we go into the blame game. And actually, it's because the reason or the season is over.
Yes.
Or the lifetime of that friendship, relationship is over. And if we move into a place of acceptance, then we move on. Because when we move into the blame and the shame game, nobody gets any peace. And it's not the other person that suffers, it's you. And so grieving, literally letting it go through grief, honoring yourself by grieving, crying if you need to, being angry if you need to, because the grieving process has anger, it has disbelief, it has shock, it has all sorts of elements to it, and sadness. It has all those elements. So we go through a process of grieving. Now, when we don't go through that process, it's still there, undealt with feeling and emotion. And it has an impact on you, because when we shut down the heart, everything becomes tough. Everything becomes, it's like a weight around our heart area. And it's like, it feels like, you know, this expression of that you look like you've got the weight on your shoulders. You know, the weight of the world on your shoulders. That's exactly where that comes from, because we suppress the body because we're carrying that weight of grief. And when the person's still alive, we don't have the rituals of the funeral. And so it's even worse. And so it's important to find a way to grieve that loss of that friendship, of that relationship, of that culture. Many people come from different countries that have been displaced through all sorts of reasons, war, famine. They've been displaced because they've had to move from their families because of education. Many people come to certainly the big cities, London, because they still think the streets are paved with gold. You know, and I'm sure that you will have those kind of analogies in America. You know, that people move to the big cities, but they move out of their relationships, their family and their friendships, and there is a loss.
Very valid. Thank you, Jacalyn. And go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to just say this, but when we move into suppressing that, we don't feel, and then we start to get all the repercussions of not feeling.
Yes, I agree. And certainly during this pandemic, I'm sure more people than not are feeling the loss of something that is no longer there. Excuse me. So I know for me, you know, I had a corporate job, which I retired from last year, and I had an amazing social life. I belonged to this incredible club. And so now I'm on an island with my mother. And so all those relationships that I had are all gone. And I've let them go. I don't think I'm angry about it, but maybe there's still something there that I haven't yet figured out that I need to work on. So thank you for sharing all of this. We've got a couple of comments from Mr. Philip Chan. Wonderful affirmations. Thank you for sharing. And of course, Mr. Hyatt Ives, great material and mindset positioning, very calming. So you did a great job today. I'm standing for you, standing ovation. And I have to wrap up the show because we have another one coming up, I think in 5 minutes, but 5 minutes. But what I want to share with everyone, this is kind of exciting, Caroline. I just realized that we have already streamed 500 shows since August. So we were just at 400 and now we're at 505. So that is really exciting. I'm sorry that I missed the 500th announcement, but here we are at 505. So it's been great to have you here today. Thank you for doing a double lesson. I really appreciate it. Brilliant as always. So Caroline and I will be waving goodbye as we sign off from Talking Heads. And please do join us for In the Name of Love. My co-host is Kimmy Seltzer, and our guest is Stephanie, and I hope I say her name right. It's Roussel. Roussel? Stephanie Roussel. That's what I'm going to say. Okay. We'll be right back. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.